What's goody? It's your boy and I'm back with another banging video, and today I got
Akila Mac.
we're gonna be checking out a Larry Bird video, The Ugly Truth of Larry Bird's Downfall. I thought this would be an interesting video to check out. I never looked into it. I didn't even look at the video at all, so I don't know if it's just clickbait or what, but maybe he gonna talk about the downfall of Larry Bird and talk about the injuries, and we gonna get our conversation in the comments. But before we do jump into it, do me one big favor: like the video. By liking the video, the way the YouTube algorithm works, YouTube will show the video to more people. You will be directly helping me to grow, and I would appreciate that. And we're gonna come back with more Bird content. But with that being said, we just go ahead and jump into it. I'm not gonna hold y'all any longer. The Ugly Truth of Larry Bird's Downfall. Let's get it.
You guys know who Larry Bird is, right? A three-time MVP, a three-time champion, an absolute legend, one of the greatest players to ever step foot on the NBA court. Every story, every news article about Bird glorified him to no end. Everything from his ridiculous play on the court to his mystifying trash talking. With an endless number of players sharing stories and experiences with Larry that almost seem like a fantasy. In the eyes of the NBA fanbase, there's an aura surrounding Larry Bird, almost like he's untouchable. However, there have also been some times in his NBA career where he looked vulnerable. In fact, towards the end of his career, in addition to the numerous injuries he suffered, he ran into a lot of conflicts within the Celtics organization, and his teammates as well. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and in this video, we're gonna take a look at the fall of Larry Bird. What went wrong? What happened with the relationship?
Alright, let me stop it. When he say fall, I'm thinking about injury wise.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too. I don't think nothing happened between them two.
I mean, if anything did happen, I don't know of it. I didn't. But some of those type of things they keep in house. I'm not gonna lie. But when I thought about downfall, I clicked on this video. I was thinking he was gonna be talking mostly about injuries. So maybe he gonna get a little deeper into something I never heard about. I appreciate that. I'm thinking. It's looking good so far. But that's the biggest thing for me. That's really the only reason why I stopped it. I don't know if they had anything. Y'all let me know in the comments if y'all know any type of like in-house type stuff, like behind the scenes practice, fights at practice, anything that kind of broke up the squad or whatever. But my mind was focused on injuries. That's the only thing I really thought. But let's jump back into it.
Between him and the rest of the Celtics. Was there anything more to his early retirement than just his back problems? The year is 1988. Larry Bird just had the best statistical season of his entire career, with a whopping 29.9 points per game, along with a much lower turnover rate than usual. At 31 years old, was still absolutely killing it. Throughout the season, he garnered a ton of praise, cause as he got older, his longevity came into question. But for a short while there, he was crushing his doubters. As a team, the Celtics won 57 games, but their playoff run came to a screeching halt. In the conference finals, they would fall to the Pistons in 6 games, with Bird having an absolutely terrible performance. Now, at this point, Bird was still at the top of his game, and nothing seemed wrong with him. He just had an off series, that was it. Unfortunately, his career quickly came crashing down. Over the summer, it was discovered that he had foot problems that went unnoticed in the previous playoffs. Bird isn't exactly the person who wants to let people know that he's hurt or he's struggling, but he was. It wasn't the first time either. A few years prior, in 1985, Bird suffered a back injury when helping his parents shovel and clean up their driveway. The worst part of this is that Bird never wanted to let the Celtics know about it. He always wanted to play hurt and didn't want to make a big deal out of it, even though it was a big deal. Apparently, according to this article, quote, the injury was so extreme that he commonly needed to relax for hours at a time, either in between games or in some cases even throughout as well after them. From 1987 to 88 onward, he would have to have his spinal column straightened before a number of the games, merely to be able to get it.
Alright, I'm not gonna lie, like, that's one of the biggest factors. And I don't know what are the foot injury. He didn't even get into detail with the foot injury, so I'm not even gonna get it. That's my first time hearing about the foot injury before that injury. And you know, that was this one was in 1985. He said, if I'm not mistaken, that's why he hurt his back. And then they said from 1987 onward, he would have those problems, I guess. But my thing is, like, man, he actually created his own problem. As hard as it is for me to say that, like, if you really want to be really honest about it, like, not even to say he probably had injuries before that, or it was some nagging stuff, but one thing that I seen throughout the videos and throughout the comments when y'all speaking, we all agree on one thing, that pavement, when he went to build that driveway himself, that's when his back totally started giving out. And it's like, the people that do that type of work, they always have these type of problems. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of problem that they function with, and they probably functioning with every day in their life, even when they work in that job. But his body is not used to putting in that type of work. Like,
that's crazy, because pretty much they're saying, like, before a number of games, he would have to have his spinal straightened.
Right.
You must, like, basketball must have been, like, serious to him.
Right.
And it is kind of like, I'm not, like, I don't mean to say it, but it is kind of like a desperate thing. It's like he wanted to do that.
What do you mean, what was a desperate thing?
For him to get out on the court, so he went through the spinal situation.
I mean,
like,
he was that.
I knew that hurt it.
You gotta be desperate to continue to play the game. You know what I'm saying? He was desperate to continue to play the game. In a sense, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm getting from what you said. But he was desperate to continue to play the game. But that's why he played through those injuries and did that, because he didn't want to give up the game. It's hard. Like, it's hard for a lot, but it's not just him. It's hard for a lot of these players to give up the game. It's something that just they've been doing their entire life, and that's all they know. So when it comes down to ending, they try to extend that as long as they can. But back to my point I was saying earlier, and then I'll jump back into the video. As hard as it is for me to say, I feel like he caused his own injury. Like, well, he started it. With the pavement thing, building the pavement. His body's not built for that. You're a basketball player, man. The people that do this have been doing all this grunt work their entire life. And not to say he had hard hands-on work whenever he was coming up, when he was growing up. But it's a different type of work whenever you're doing that type of construction. He probably didn't have the proper uniform, the proper protection. So he kind of started his own career in a sense, as hard as it is.
Yeah, and then I feel like he probably already knew that, like, he feel that way or whatnot. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump back into it.
Involved. It accumulated even further at the start of the 1988-89 season. After playing just 6 games, he underwent surgery on his foot, and it forced him to sit out the rest of the season. But once again, this wasn't anything new for him. Right. In his sophomore season of high school, he also suffered a broken foot and sat out for an extended period of time. The problem is, just like with his back problems, he didn't want to let anybody know about it. He tried to hide it, which made it even worse. It definitely contributes to his reputation of being a, quote, tough guy. It was honestly a stupid thing to do. Had he sought out treatment earlier, maybe his career...
I just want to...
That's what most of, these athletes do, though. Like on All-American, you know how... I think it was Spencer or somebody that was taking medication.
That's different.
Well, yeah, but... I don't know.
That's
different. How about the other guy that had surgery on his hand and the doctor told him he wasn't able to play?
I mean, an All-American, that's all different from what he got going on. That's different. Well, okay, either way it goes, I stopped the video to say that, yeah, I think the guy that's commentating the video is absolutely right. And the reason why I say what you're saying is different, just to explain, I just want to say what I wanted to say before I forget. Dang, I almost lost it there. You see, that's why I wanted to say what I was going to say before. Dang.
You said something about the commentator.
Oh, yeah, the commentator was right. No, I'm trying to think about what I was going to say about Larry Bird, man. That's why I wanted to say it. And that's why I tried to stop the video and get what I want to say out. If I'm stopping it a lot, I'm sorry, but if I forget, then I completely lost my whole point, and it could have been a good point. Larry Bird. Yeah, my bad, y'all. He created his own problems, and then on top of creating his own problem with the yard thing, building the pavement, even getting deeper into creating even more problems for yourself, not wanting to tell the team and the staff and everything, because you have a great, like, you're a professional athlete, which y'all have trainers, y'all have all the access to all this stuff that you could have used. Instead, I don't want to say you were such a tough guy, you had this tough mentality that you limited yourself to medical access you could have had. That's what I think about that, and that is my opinion. Let me know if they didn't have that type of medical access and stuff at that time, then maybe. But let me know what y'all think in the comments, because that's one reason I was thinking. But since I got that out, back to what you were saying, All-American and them playing through injuries and not want to tell the coach and all that is different, because they're college athletes. They trying to make it to what he at. He's already in the big leagues. He's already at that point, and he's a star. So there's no reason he shouldn't be telling the organization or the medical staff about these injuries so they can be tended to.
Yeah.
That's my thing, because you have full access, you have the money to do whatever surgery or whatever, so you shouldn't be risking it. You could have prolonged your career. You probably would have set out more games, but you could have had a longer career. That was my big explanation on that, but I had to get into it because I know he gonna say some stuff like that, but that's what I think, so I don't want him to kind of pollute what I was gonna say. Let's jump back into it.
Would have lasted longer. So, while this was all a terrible situation for the Celtics, it wasn't supposed to be a chronic issue. Just like with his back problem, they expected Bird to brush it off and come back and play just as well as before, and return back to his superstar self prior to the surgery. But what really happened was that Bird was never the same again. And following his return in the next year, drama within the organization started to develop. At the start of the 1989-90 season, Bird was supposedly healthy, but his actual game severely deteriorated. His scoring became a lot less efficient. He started settling for a lot more jump shots because the foot surgery hampered his athleticism. The way he used to easily blow by players was rarely seen anymore, if at all. Bird's once smooth, once agile playstyle became very rugged and predictable. He was also 33 years old at this point, which certainly did not help. In this season, he still averaged about 24 points a game, but on the lowest field goal percentage since his rookie year. Nonetheless, there was plenty of drama all season long within the Celtics organization, primarily centered around Bird's role on the team. Everyone knew he was starting to slow down, so head coach Jimmy Rogers started to shift away from a Bird-centric offense. Instead, he opted to move towards a more team-oriented playstyle. He increased their pace, now being in the upper half of the league, as opposed to previous years when they were one of the more slower teams. This proved to be a difficult adjustment for Larry, and analysts at the time attributed his struggles to not being able to keep up. And the high-tempo play took a toll on his...
I mean, I just feel like, and I'm not gonna stop it that long, I feel like, and everybody knows this if you're a real basketball head, if the slower players are less athletic players are not gonna thrive in faster paced offenses. So of course, he's gonna do worse because he's not a fast-paced player like that. He kind of breaks the game down to where you play at his speed, kind of like Luka does nowadays. So therefore, making it a faster-paced game will kind of deplete his game. That's playing totally against his play style. Like, he's athletic, he can move with everybody, but trying to fast break and go up and down super fast, no, he controls the pace. Larry Bird controls the game. So yes, that type of play style and playing like that, even though he was late in his career and he was depleting, that was totally playing against him. So my bad. But let's jump back into it.
Already beaten body. However, it was the addition of Jim Paxon as their new starting point guard, which was really the straw that broke the camel's back. Not only was Paxon 35 years old, which really didn't help their fast style of play, but he also had regular confrontations with Bird. At one point, Paxon publicly talked about Bird's poor shot selection, and even said he was, quote, hogging the ball, even though Bird still led the team in assists. Paxon was even quoted saying Bird was tearing the team apart. This article by Nick Gelso on Bleacher Report described the situation quite well. Truth be told, Larry was forcing poor shots as a result of the team's lack of offensive chemistry. Rogers was pushing an up-tempo style of play with a 35-year-old point guard. As a result, and to Bird's discord, Dennis Johnson was forced to the bench, being replaced by an overweight playmaker named John Bagley. Confrontations between Bird and Rogers and the rest of the coaching staff became commonplace. Eventually, it reached to the higher levels of management too. Some of his teammates would talk poorly of him and that the team would be better off without him, which was, an absolute joke. But even Celtics fans were starting to get impatient. Although his teammates and coaches might have been a bit harsh, it was true that Bird was not the same player he once was. Anyway, the Celtics would finish the season with a 52-30 record. Still, a respectable record for all the tension and drama surrounding the team all year. The first round of the 1990 playoffs was a doozy. The 4-5 matchup has always been the most competitive series, and this time...
Okay, now I'm thinking okay, so since they talking all this about Bird, and they went 52-30 either way, was Bird still the best player on the team? As beat up as he was, I'm thinking he's still the best player on the team. No matter how much they talking, even though he's slowed down, he's not the Bird he used to be. And that's the kind of crazy part about the NBA, when these players become a shell of themselves. They kind of try to throw them away, but because they expect them to be that sensational talent they were whenever they first started impacting or they first broke out. But they're not that same person. So Bird was possibly still the best person on the team with all that trash talk, with all that crazy stuff going on, and led the team to a 52-30 record after all these injuries, still nagging back injuries, broken foot, and then that's probably other injuries. There's probably other injuries on top of that I don't know about. So that's still a hell of a job that he did. But yeah, let's jump back into it.
It was no exception. The Celtics got out to a 2-0 lead, and then they lost 3 in a row, losing the series and ultimately ending this tumultuous season. Overall, his final 2 years were an absolute mess. When Larry played, the Celtics still looked like a top-notch team, but when he sat out due to injuries, the team looked quite poor, and he sat out quite often. The back problems flared up numerous times, causing him to get another surgery in 1991. At this point of his career, Bird was done, and it was evident by his 1991 playoff run. The Celtics were on a roll, but Bird himself was having a horrible time, especially in the second round against Detroit. The Pistons were always a thorn on his side, but this time they really shut him down. Bird averaged a pitiful 13 points a game on horrendous shooting. Celtics analysts and reporters attributed this to his back problems, but it was a combination of that and his age, and the Pistons being determined to knock him out.
Field goal?
By 1992, Bird was officially done and retired by the age of 34. He would become part of a small handful of players who retired despite averaging over 20 points per game in his final season. At the end of the day, even though Bird drastically slowed down compared to his prime, he was still a star. In his worst years, he was at the forefront of the league and still competed with the best of the best. When he got invited to the 1992 Dream Team, the first US Olympic team to accept NBA players, the players joked about how washed up he was. And of course, he wasn't very effective in the actual Olympics. Regardless, the latter part of Bird's career was a roller coaster. But despite all of that, despite his relatively short career compared to other all-time greats, Bird is still considered one of the best of all time, a legendary player who changed the game of basketball. In an era dominated by fast-paced athleticism and quickness,
I think he was definitely one of the best of all time, but I also think that these injuries kind of like, even though as great as he was, there was this one injury before his career even started. If I'm not mistaken, it was a hand injury. Broke his hand or something like that, finger. Y'all, if y'all watch the reaction, y'all remember that. But he did that and it changed his entire shooting stroke. So basically, the shooting stroke he used and with the great numbers he put up, that was with a broken hand, and he had to rearrange his whole shooting stroke coming into the league. Now, my people that actually go out and they play basketball, you know how hard that is to, like, for your whole entire life up until like you get out of college and right before you get drafted, you gotta change your entire shooting stroke. The mechanics that don't even match up because it's all about repetitiveness, repeating that same jump shot. So now you gotta make a whole nother jump shot and switch up everything. So that was another thing. So it's all those injuries kind of start adding up, and that kind of like derailed his career in my opinion. And I say it, but I don't like saying it. It derailed it. And even on top of the fact that the injuries derailed him, I feel like not going and getting the proper medicines and the proper care and the proper medical attention to those back injuries and all that, and just fighting through that, toughing through it, was another reason why like the career was shortened a little bit more. I think he probably would have went a couple of more years, maybe. I don't want to say 5, I don't want to say a handful, but maybe 2 to 3 more years if he would have tended to those injuries a little earlier. I think it's sad, and I think that it's just something as an old school player that they were like, it was normalized. You had to be tough. You got to fight through that. You got to be a man, you know what I'm saying? But modern medicine and the way they play the game nowadays extends these players' careers. I'm not going to lie. So that's the appreciation I got for the modern day. And also I think if he thought a little differently, his career could have been a little longer and his legacy could have been a little more extended. But let's jump back into it.
Bird was more mellow and dominated with his wits and trickery. He's arguably the greatest passer at the small forward position we've ever seen. Only LeBron James has an argument to be a better passer than Larry, but it's debatable. Perhaps it was his lack of longevity that really hurts him in the all-time rankings.
Debatable.
If he lasted as long as someone like LeBron or Kareem or Tim Duncan and never suffered all those devastating back issues, there's a real chance that Larry could have been the greatest of all time. He had all the talents, all the skills, and extravagance to do so.
Right, the GOAT.
Anyway, that's all, folks. That sums up the unfortunate downfall of Larry Bird towards the twilight of his career. Let me know your thoughts on Larry, and how much further would his legacy progress if he didn't suffer those injuries. The last few years of his career are rarely talked about because they're quite underwhelming, but I wanted to shed some light on what really happened with his demise. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.
That's the end of the video. So, my biggest thing was, it wasn't too much more than just the injuries that he was talking about here. He made it seem like it was something else that downfall. There was a couple of aspects in the video where people were talking about him on his team that the guy that made the video was speaking on. But even the fact that they was talking about him, what they was speaking on was that he wasn't balling at the same level as he used to, and he was hogging, and he wasn't the same Larry. But at the same time, I feel like that was straight in correlation with the injuries. I feel like that's why they felt like that. He wasn't balling like that because he couldn't. He wasn't built the same. You know what I'm saying? These injuries were slowing him down. Foot, broken feet. Back is one of the worst problems to have because that's something that affects you every time you move. Like, and it's just certain stuff, like if it was a hand injury or something, or if it was like a finger injury or just something small, you could probably ignore that or something. But a back injury is something you can't ignore. It's a hard injury to go through, and he's an amazing player to play through it as far as he did after it happened. This was a insightful video, but it kind of like just, you know, I kind of felt like I knew what it was at the start of it, yeah. But I was right in a sense, but I didn't hear about those parts. That was my first time hearing about the part with the 35-year-old point guard and teammates talking down on Larry. Now that's different now. Can't talk down on him now because he's injured like that. He probably still could drag you. But either way it goes, make sure y'all liking the video up and subscribing to the channel. Make sure y'all subscribing to her channel.
Akila Mac.
I'm gonna drop it down in the description. Before you go, if you're new to the content, like the video. Just had to get a bird video in for y'all. Bird gang, the ones of y'all that already subscribed, I really appreciate y'all. Y'all know it's love. Had to come back with one for y'all. But like the video up. Let's get it to at least 2,000 likes. You feel me? Please, stressing that. By liking the video, the way the YouTube algorithm works, YouTube will show the video to more people. So by you liking the video, YouTube would show the video to more people, and you'll be directly helping me to grow. And I would appreciate that. Try to get the hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So make sure you're hitting that little button at the bottom. And Machi did.